Hello and welcome back to another Star Wars Legion video. Today we're going to be talking about the Imperial and Rebel Officer and Agent respectively. We're going to be talking about the Imperial one first. So to start us off with, we have their new cards and what they're going to look like. So the Imperial Agent, it gets Equip Doctrine. He gets combat training where he has a melee weapon of 3 black dice and he has a blaster pistol of range 1 to 2 with 2 white and 1 black. He has 5 health, 2 courage, surge the hit, white defensive dice with white surges, and 2 speed. He also is able to equip 1 command, 1 training, 1 weapon, and 2 gear upgrades. And he costs 50 base, but really that will go up because you have to equip a doctrine. So really it's like 60, because I believe the cheapest doctrine is 10. It might be 8 actually. So 58 base if you don't want to run anything else on him. 58 points. For the Imperial Officer, again, you have Equip Doctrine. You have Inspire 1 on him. You have Combat Training, again, 3 black and melee. Same blaster pistol, 2 white, 1 black. Instead, the Officer has 6 health and 2 courage. But other than that, it is the same stats. Except for what they can equip. The Officer can equip, again, 1 Doctrine, 1 Command, 2 Training instead of 1, 1 gun, and 2 gear, just like the Imperial Agent there. Now, with the doctrines, they did show us what the doctrines are going to be, and that is going to be these here. And as you can see, there are some that are Imperial Agent only or Imperial Officer only, and then there's 2 that can go on either one of them. So let's look at the Imperial Officer one first. It's going to increase the courage by 1. And the Imperial Officer is going to gain Exemplar, Inspire 1, and Strategize 1. It's overall the one I'm probably going to run first, and we'll get into that in just a second after I run through all of these and kind of get my thoughts on them. It is 10 points. I think it is the best. The only other one that I kind of like for the Officer, actually I like 2 of the other ones for the Officer. Tip of the Spear, which is when this unit is issued an order, an allied unit within 1 may remove up to 1 suppression token. That's just really nice. The unit gains aid. That means if the Officer gains a green token, a dodge, a surge, or an aim, they can instead give it to someone else that is an Imperial Trooper unit. The Imperial Officer or Agent will also gain direct core trooper unit and tactical 1. So whenever they move, they get an aim. It's very nice setup there. It's only 8 points there. Very good supportive card for either the Agent or Officer. The next card is Defend in Depth. This one's kind of interesting, and I kind of want to see how it plays in a troop emplacement army. Sorry, my cat was just knocking things over there. This says, during the end phase, choose 1 allied trooper unit within 1 of this unit, and the chosen unit does not remove 1 aim, as well as this unit gains 8 emplacement trooper unit, which, just like the Imperial trooper unit, you can switch out your tokens. Prepared positions, which is interesting, and spotter 1, which is also interesting. Which will just give out aims, and then you can have them keep the aim if you get unlucky and you didn't give this Officer or Agent a command and they go last in your lineup. You can still keep that aim for the next round, which is relatively nice. And then finally we have the Imperial Agent only doctrine card here, which is during setup, choose 1 allied core unit. The chosen unit gains retinue Imperial Agent, which means they can, if they start within 1 to 2 of the Imperial Agent, they get a dodge or an aim. While the Agent also will gain, while it's engaged, it gains Surge to crit and Surge to defend if it does not have it. And I bet you're wondering, it already has Surge to defend, so why does that matter? And we'll get into that in just a little bit when we get into the gear. This unit also will gain Sharpshooter 1, so it gets a little bit better at shooting outside of being engaged too. But yeah, those are the doctrines for both the Imperial Officer and Agent. I think they did an amazing job with them. I'm kind of curious on why the point difference between some of them are 8 to 10. Like, what is that 2 points? And I kind of want to see if those really matter too much, or if the 8.1s are just going to be better overall. But we'll see. I am looking at the 10 ones a little bit more interested in some of what they can do, like defend into depth and academy training. I think it's just the best overall support commander, which if I'm taking this cheap of a commander, it's going to be more of a supportive commander anyways in my army. So very interested to see how they all play out. But we'll get straight into that in just a bit. Let's move on to the gear that you can equip to these guys. Combat armor. This unit's defense becomes red dice instead of white dice, and this unit does not have Surge to Defend, which that's where the doctrine where it says it can have Surge to Defend while being engaged. That is where this will take place. So if you have that doctrine on your agent, you can also have combat armor and then have red defensives with red defensive saves, which is like Mando armor, or hold the line for Riot Squad, which we'll get into what I think the agent's job is for the Imperials and what they kind of looked at whenever we get into how I built my first Imperial agent, and we'll see how good he is. Seeker Droid is probably the most interesting gear out of all of the gear that these guys can have, in my opinion, and that is it gains recharge 1 and shield 1, so you get a shield on your agent or officer, and a free observe 1, which is just very interesting, and it is a lot like Iden Versio's Seeker Droid, where he gets stuff for her. I forgot the exact keywords, but yeah, it's very interesting for me. It's only 8 points, so it's relatively cheap compared to the combat armor, which is 15. However, combat armor will keep your Imperial agent or officer alive more. So pretty interesting 2 gears. But then we get into the third one, which is command and control uplink, which is during the command phase after revealing command cards, but before determining priority, you may it's not exhaust. I forgot what the actual word is, but you can use it for, and you only get 1 use of this card. If you do, you may treat your revealed command card as 1 pip lower until the end of the round. You can use some interesting shenanigans with this in the Imperial Army, because you have certain people with the interrogate keyword. So if you do this, you lower your pip, and you treat it, but I don't know how it interacts with interrogate or like cunning, where if there was a tie, then you lower it again. So could you make a 3 pip into a 1 pip? That's what I need to look at the rules further for this, but that is what I'm most curious about with the command and control uplink, and that is, yeah, it's just a very interesting upgrade. I'm really excited for all of these and seeing how they play and seeing like which ones I like the most. Obviously, combat armor is probably going to be ones people takes a lot, because it's just changing your white saves into red saves, which are generally better because they are. And then seeing how people play, and especially with the agent, I think there's an agent that's going to be the most common agent that we see, and we'll get into that in just a bit. Finally, we get to their guns, their special guns. The heavy blaster pistol, which you can put on both. It gives them sharpshooter 1 and target 1, which means if they get an order, they get an aim. It also has lethal 1 and long shot, so you can extend it up to 3 if you use an aim, but right now it's just range 1 to 2. Or if they're in range, then you can use an aim to give it pierce 1 for that lethal 1 there. Then we get the stun baton, which gives the unit demoralize 1, immobilize 1, and then 1 red and 5 black for an attack. And it's 8 versus the 5 and 5 that we see on the other weapons. It's pretty interesting. It's a one I'm most interested in seeing if it works well. However, to me, the best one, and the one that I will probably use most often, even though you won't see it on the one I just built today, is the Z6 Riot Baton. I think this is the best weapon for the agent, especially. For the officer, you can take the long shot pistol. I don't really see a need. Again, if I'm playing officer this cheap, it's mostly a supportive, so I'm not going to spend an extra 5 points for a gun. But the extra aim could be nice, so we'll see how I feel about it after play testing some of these in some armies. Sorry, back to the Z6 right baton. It gives the unit immune melee pierce, which is just solid. It's just a solid weapon for that. It also, the right baton has suppressive, and it rolls 2 red and 2 black, which is better most of the time. But yeah, that is it. That is all the weapons for all of these guys. And you can take different ones. Like I said, to me, especially for the agent, the Z6 is probably the best weapon out of all of these. But let's dive into the command cards. So for the Imperial Officer, they each get 1 command card unique to them. For the Imperial Officer, we have the one on the left here, which is inexorable advance, which you can give orders to 3 trooper units. And then when a core trooper unit is issued an order with this card, its ranged weapons gain suppressive until the end of the round. And then additionally, when an enemy unit panics this round after the effect is resolved, an allied core unit may make a speed 1 move. This is just a very interesting card to where you can get more suppression onto the field with those core units that you have. And I'm just really interested to see how this plays out with it. The Imperial Agent one, I'm not super happy with. It gives an order to the Imperial Agent, which could be nice. And then when an Imperial Agent is issued an order with this card, it gains Demoralize 2 and Inspire 2 until the end of the round. It is a 1 pip. It could be nice. I'm not a big fan of Demoralize or Inspire 2. Demoralize just gives people suppression, which is nice. Don't get me wrong. I love suppression in this game. And Inspire 2 does get rid of suppression on your guys, so it could be good. But for 1 pip, I kind of want a little more oomph on paper. But we'll see how it plays. Like I said, I am going to try it eventually. May take a couple of weeks, but we'll see. But yeah, that is their command cards. And finally, let's talk about how I built these two. So on the Imperial Officer, this is what a mostly fully built Imperial Officer will look like in mine. It will give them Academy training, which gives them the Exemplar. Improvised orders, because you just need improvised orders. I probably would also put improvised orders on the Imperial Agent. It's just not super important, which is why I did not include it in the build over on the right. Command and Control uplink, because like I said, I think that card can be very interesting, and you do some fun shenanigans with it. And then finally the Seeker Droid to give him a shield, letting him be a little bit more survivable in the back there, because I did not put combat armor on him. I could have, but it would have just made him more expensive, which it doesn't really need to be more expensive at that price point. 86 points in total there is just really nice. The free observe from the Seeker Droid 2 is why I did it, since he's more supporting my units. And then finally we move over to the Imperial Agent with Platoon Commander, because if I'm running this guy, I'm going to run Riot Control Squad with him, the core, and they're just going to move up the board together. He also has Tenacity for when he takes a wound, combat armor, environmental gear just in case the board has some difficult terrain, which it could, and then the Stun Baton, just because I want to try the Stun Baton before going on to the weapon of my personal choice, which is the Z6 for him. But I want to see kind of if the Stun Baton might be worth it overall. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these two new units in the game, if you guys played them at all. We're going to quickly move on to the Rebel stuff. But yeah, I'm super excited for the Imperial things and the Rebel things. I'm just excited to get new things, honestly, and play test them around and have fun with them. I enjoy doing weird shenanigans with stuff, so I'm very interested in that Command and Control uplink, but we'll see how it goes. Moving on to the Rebel Officer and Rebel Agent. These are backwards from each other, so the Officer on top, Agent's on bottom. And they're the same points, basically the same exact units across the board, except for the Agent, instead of having Relentless, has Independent Dodge 1 and Nimble. And that is really the only difference there between the Imperial Officer and Agent and Rebel Officer and Agent. Imperial Officer and Rebel Officer are the same unit. By the way, Training Academy also increases the officer's courage by 1. So instead of courage 2 for my Imperial Officer, I have courage 3 bubble, which is just nice for attacking or defending. Sorry, little tangent there. But yeah, the only real difference is the agents and what they have for keywords. The Imperial has Relentless, meaning he can attack after moving, while the Rebel has Independent Dodge 1 and Nimble, which is pretty good. Moving on to their doctrines. This is where they change a lot. Let's look at the Rebel Officer Only doctrine. While within 1 of this unit, all Allied Trooper units gain Dauntless if they're within 1 of the officer. He also gains Aid Rebel Trooper unit and Indomitable Spur and Tactical 1. Spur, I think they added to him very specifically because of one of the guns, and I'm kind of curious on how it plays, and we'll get into that when I get into the build that I made for the officer. I did take Frontline Commander just because I think it's interesting, and I'll see how it plays. But yeah, Aid, Rebel Trooper unit, Indomitable Spur, and Tactical 1 is just a very interesting setup there. Moving on to Unseen Saboteur for the Rebel Agent or Officer. During setup, you choose another non-commander, non-operative trooper unit, and the chosen unit gains prepared positions. This unit gains low profile and prepared positions. So you'll get 2 units with prepared positions onto the board, and your agent or officer will gain low profile, which means if they're behind cover, they just get an automatic save from the cover roll. But yeah, it's pretty good. I'm interested in that. It's really cheap. It's the cheapest option for the Rebels. So I'm interested to see how that plays too. Again, I'm interested in seeing how all of these play. Another Rebel Officer only doctrine card is the next one. And this is a lot similar to the Imperial Officers Academy training, and it's Proven Tactician. Again, the unit's courage increases by 1, while within 1 of this unit, allied unit core units gain reinforcements. This really only matters for the first turn of the game, so keep that in mind. But yeah, it's very interesting. That means after the first turn, they can take a move 1, I believe, action if they're within 1 of this guy. This unit also gains Quick Thinking, which gives him self tokens, and Exemplar, so that he can deal out those tokens to anyone near him. Again, Courage 3 bubble is very strong, so I wouldn't write off this card. I think it's a pretty interesting card, and I'm curious to see how the reinforcements aspects plays in with it. And then finally, our Rebel Agent only doctrine card, the Reluctant Hero. Much like Han, that's why they added it. When this unit makes an attack action during the form attack pool step, 1 of its attack pools gains critical 1 for each suppression token it has. So if you have 2 suppression, you can gain critical 2, 3 suppression, critical 3. That is a very interesting play with this, in my opinion. This unit also gains Infiltrate and Relentless. So again, after it makes a move, it can make an attack. So having multiple suppression on this guy won't matter as much, which is just really interesting. And I'm very curious to see how it plays again. Reluctant Heroes, by far probably my favorite doctrine on the Rebel side, and probably even the Empire side. But let's dive in to the gear and guns for the Rebels. They only get 1 gear that was shown, which is combat armor. Again, makes them red saves, and they lose Surge to save. However, they have 3 guns, just like the Imperials, but 2 of their guns, unlike the Imperials, are ranged, while 1 is melee, while the Imperials had 2 melee and 1 ranged. So the Repeating Blaster over here on the Rebel side gives you Precise 2. It also reduces your speed by 1. So both of our guys here are speed 2, which means they'll go down to speed 1. It is a range 3 weapon, 1 to 3. It rolls 1 red, 3 white, and 2 black with critical 1, impact 1, and long shot 1. However, This gun is 25 points, which I've already been talking to my buddy because we saw these changes and talking back and forth about things. And we both think that it's overcosted for what it can do. And I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. I'm still going to run it because I'm interested in seeing if it is worth that 25 points. But moving on to the gun that's probably better for your Imperial officer or agent, the heavy blaster pistol. The unit gains arsenal 2, so it'll go back to their 3 white, I believe. Let's go back to that slide. 2 white, 1 black gun can also be shot along. So 2 white, 1 black, along with your red and your white. So you just get the same thing as the repeating blaster, except for you're losing out on crit 1 and precise 2 and impact 1. However, I don't think it matters too much. Sorry, I was checking their surge to hit, not surge to crit. But yeah, so that's why we think it's a little bit overcosted. Also, with the repeating blaster, you reduce that speed by 1, so it's kind of like, why am I taking this? It reduces my speed in a game that you need more mobility, and I talk about how much I love mobility in the game. Reduces that speed, which just really, really, really sucks. But we'll see how it plays, and then I'll make an update video probably. And then their final weapon, which is the Vibro Axe. They gain charge, and that has impact 1, lethal 1, rolls a red and 3 black in melee. It's pretty good. Not too good, but it's pretty good. And finally, their command cards. So for the Rebel Officer, we have Diversionary Tactics, which is 3. You give orders to 3 trooper units. When a unit is issued an order with the card, it gains a dodge and an observation token. So you're trying to distract your enemy from hitting other key units because you're like, hey, look at these guys. They got an observation token on them. Shoot them instead. It's pretty interesting. However, the Rebel Agent, to me, has the more interesting command card out of all 4 of the command cards that we've seen today. And that is, it gives an order to an operative unit and 1 other unit. So it doesn't have to be itself, but if you're only running Rebel Agent, it has to be them. This round, when creating your pass pool, add a number of additional advantage tokens equal to the current round. So if it's round 5, you get 5 pass tokens. However, I think this is going to be more important in like round 1, round 2, when you get those additional pass tokens. I find that pass tokens are more important early on, so that's probably when I will be playing it and having fun with this new Battlefield Reconnaissance. And I just love the flavor of both of these. I think they're great. I think the other flavor is also well on the Imperial side. However, let's see how I build these guys. Kind of heavy points for my Rebels guys here. However, the Rebels do have some of the cheapest units in the game and are... so they can afford having much more expensive commanders and operatives. For my Rebel Officer, I took Frontline Commander, Improvised Orders. Again, I put Improvised Orders on both of these guys just because I'm going to run them. Doesn't really matter. On the Imperial ones, the reason I didn't put it on 1 is because I might not have the points. So there's there. Offensive Push, Mission Objective, Combat Armor, and the Repeating Blaster. Because Frontline Commander gives the officer spur, I think it's going to be interesting in how it works with certain things and seeing how it really plays with. So I can increase my movement speed to 2 and then move him with Relentless across the board with the Repeating Blaster. And I want to see if that makes the Repeating Blaster good. But even then, you could just take the Heavy Blaster and do the same thing as a Repeating Blaster, except for you can get up to speed 3, so it makes them more mobile with a lot less point sink. So I don't really know what they were thinking when the Repeating Blaster point cost was 25. I think that's kind of a mistake, and it's kind of too late. I'm sure they'll see and be like, oh, maybe it shouldn't be 25. However, you do get those extra keywords, which is kind of nice. That's my little rant. Moving on to a Rebel Agent. Reluctant Hero, of course, improvised orders, Strike Team Leader, Combat Armor, and Heavy Blaster Pistol. And I think this is just going to make him a very annoying target, and he's going to be like, not necessarily a glass cannon because he does have that combat armor, but he is going to be very hard to deal with in my personal opinion. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the Rebel Officer and Rebel Agent, and if you're excited to play them. I sure am. I hope you are too. I love getting new stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Bye!